come on, come on. Hello, 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 hello. On YouTube, let's go. 2 here and 1 like. Come on, everybody, let's hit the like button. The likes are... Oh, come on. I got 5 y'all here. We need 4 more likes. As we come in, we hit the like button because those are free. Just waiting. I know, the LIBTARDs just love it. Soon as we get this freaking YouTube thing, we're getting tired of YouTube. There are 6 y'all here and 3 likes. That means we're missing what? 3 more likes. You can just like to come in for free. The freeloaders like to come and watch for free. They want to show no love. Alright, come on. We're almost there. It's coming. It's coming slowly, man. Slow today. It's coming very, very slow.
This is how my sleep score went from 40 to 100 in just 2 nights.
Oh, really?
And it wasn't from taking more melatonin or counting sheep. It was...
Yeah. Whew. Man. Man, you guys love playing your little game there. Where's the little bitch?
Democrat Party is about to hit Trump with everything they've got. This is the final shot to take him out. Yeah. To help me go through this and more, I have Alex Marlowe. Alex, thank you for joining me again.
Stephen, always nice to be with you.
So Alex is the chief editor over at Breitbart News. He also has his own show right here on YouTube, The Alex Marlowe Show, and I'll put a direct link to that.
Come on. Let's go. Oh, let's take it over there. Okay, let's get this rocking here. Yes.
Hello. So Bill O'Reilly said last night on a viral video that Democrats are about to throw every fake news story at Trump that they can, and they're going to hit him every single week. The plan is to basically bombard the American people with fake stories, credibility, calling into question his credibility, his mental health, his physical health, over and over and over again. One of the big things is that Doge was dissolved, that Doge was a failure. Trump and Elon Musk are personally responsible for the death of millions of children because Democrat money laundering NGOs didn't get their money in Washington, D.C. Now we find out that Congressman Tim Burchett, one of my favorite people to talk to, he's asking if he can actually lead the charge on that. Let me show you this video from Washington, D.C., and then we'll react to it together.
Hey, everybody, Tim Burchett, just leaving Oversight Committee. I'd get most Democrats. They always have a good meal in there. Why don't we ever have a good meal? Anyway, I have officially put my name in to chair the Doge Committee. Marjorie is leaving Congress, and that'll leave the committee wide open. I sure would love an opportunity, and I know cards are stacked against me. I don't do a lot to endear myself to the leadership, but frankly, they don't do a lot to endear themselves to me. So, and y'all know how this game works. You got to raise a lot of money and kiss a lot of butt. I don't do a good job at either one of those. So, but anyway, I sure would like an opportunity to do that. I think I got the backbone and I guess the guts to go after this spending, and I think I know where a lot of it's hidden. Got legislation to do it, and I would get with folks like y'all out there on the and social media put some pressure on some of these gutless legislators to pass some of this stuff. So anyway, we'll keep on fighting. Thank you.
All right. Tim Burchett is the exact guy that was meant for Congress. The average guy goes in for a couple of years, does everything he can to keep Washington, D.C. honest. This is the exact reason he probably won't get put on the Doge committee. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm optimistic that maybe he could get on. I don't know. I'd say probably not, I guess, because he seems great. And so that means he probably won't get it. It seems to be the standard that if he seems great, he probably won't get it. No, it's the Doge is such an important initiative. And the fact that it's fallen down the priority list for some people, not everyone in Washington, some people are focused on it a lot. I think that we need to revitalize that, because the idea of cutting waste, fraud, and abuse and giving the money potentially back to the people, or at least making it so that we're paying down our debt at a reasonable rate, is so noble, and it's so revolutionary, and creating the standard that we should not have so much waste in each one of our bureaucracies. I was just talking to a friend of mine at the Pentagon who works in the Pentagon high up, and she said it's probably like 80% of the jobs there are totally unnecessary, and it just becomes a jobs program for Democrats so that they can have just this revolving door between the lobbyist class and the contractor class, and they go in the government and they come out and they get information, they get credentials, they come out, and it's all horrible. And so I just love the concept of going around and doing a deep audit of all of the over expenditures that we do. So, but we need someone who is fearless and who genuinely has the people in mind and not just their careers. So I think that it's nonstop, the amount of fraud that we've seen, the Somali story of all the Somali fraud. We're seeing a lot of this new SNAP fraud that's gone on that we've been reporting on Breitbart News. Is Small Business Administration committing frauds? There's all sorts of things where the taxpayer is having their pocket picked. And there's a new story seemingly every day. It has to be a top priority. And whoever does it, whichever party is the most righteous on this, and we know it won't be the Democrats, they have a huge opportunity to score some major political points.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. What are your thoughts on Bill O'Reilly's viral video where he's heading to Washington, D.C. to let President Trump know this is what's coming for you? They want you gone. They are going to try to take back the midterms. That's no secret. But their weapon is going to be fake stories, over dramatized stories every single week in order to make you lose the trust of the American voter. Your thoughts on his prediction?
Yeah, I'm very affectionate for Bill, who I don't know very well, but I'm an admirer of his, because he's very smart, he's very hardworking, and he's a master marketer. So I don't know how true it is, but it sounds kind of true, and he's saying it, and then he sounds very dramatic, and it certainly makes me want to stop and think about it. So I don't know, but what I do know, and you've been very kind talking about Breaking the Law, my latest book, and one of the main conclusions that I draw from this is that the left never sleeps. The lawfare superstructure is working overtime now. They want to veto Trump's agenda, his entire agenda. You see Senator Mark Warner today saying that a uniformed military may help save us from the president, openly calling for a coup. This is from the crowd that says they defend democracy. They're the defenders of democracy. They're the stewards of democracy. Trump wins a popular vote. Trump wins the Electoral College. Trump wins every single swing state. He gets to be the commander in chief. And these Democrats who lost all that, they come out and say to the military uniformed people that you should not go by the commander in chief. You should go by us, the Democrats, on MS Now or whatever. It's completely insane and anti-democratic. Yeah. And yet they say it with a straight face, and there'll be no consequences from anyone other than perhaps the voters. So the voters get fired up, then we can perhaps save democracy or a republic. So I agree with Bill in general, that I do think that they're just starting to throw stuff at him. The lawfare apparatus is moving, and the fake news is diminished greatly, but they can control the conversation. This is probably the most important thing I can say here, Stephen, is that they want us to talk about the things they want to talk about. They don't want to talk about any positive things that are happening in this country. They want us to only talk about Trump's failures or perceived failures or things where they can debate us and find some nuance to figure out a narrative where we could be wrong. That's what they want to do. It will demoralize us and it will control the conversation. And I think that's really what Bill's warning about.
Yeah, I agree with you. What do you make of President Trump? You know him. You guys cover him regularly and have for his first term out of office and now back in office. Your thoughts on him saying it's time to get rid of the filibuster. It's antiquated. They're going to get rid of it when they get back in power. I can't even prove to the American people that my agenda has legs to stand on if we can't get anything passed in the Senate. Your thoughts on removing the filibuster?
Yeah, I'm reluctantly in agreement. It feels like one that could backfire, but overall, a lot of people who I find to be very effective and very smart feel this way. I sat down with Secretary Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, last week on my show, and the full interview is up on my YouTube. People can check it out. And one thing that we discussed that was off record, but it became on record later because he put out a Wall Street Journal op-ed on this front, or a Washington Post, I think it was. But the point is he's all for it. He thinks we got to get rid of it because he thinks the Democrats are rational actors. They don't play by the fair rules. And once they ever get power again, they're going to do away with it. And so we should just strike while iron's hot, and we should do it. And it's very persuasive to me. Tommy Tuberville, senator, had an op-ed in Breitbart I think it was just a couple of days ago, where he made the exact same case. It's a persuasive case. Could it backfire? Yes, because the Democrats are more ruthless, and we on the right act more principled. And this has hurt us in many ways. We can sleep well at night, which is admirable, and I like that. But overall, it has made us much less efficient in getting our agenda through. And I think that there's a growing consensus in Washington that maybe that approach is only going to hurt us.
Oh, boy. Commercial. Always something. Always something. All buffering.
Buddy bet me $100 this lighter couldn't burn a hole through a steel spoon. And what happened next was completely insane. The best part wasn't even seeing the surprise on his face when it melted.
And that maybe that approach is only going to hurt us.
Okay. Yeah.
What's your take? Do you have a take, Stephen?
I do have a take. I feel like you have to look at the future and you have to look at the past, right? How many of them have said in the future, we need to pack the Supreme Court, get rid of the filibuster, and push through our ideas, right? So then I go to the past. Well, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin are the only reason that they didn't already get rid of the filibuster. And so they just immediately got rid of them. So the past and the future conversation is that this filibuster is going away. So why not let it be now and get more done?
I try to let logic guide most of my decisions. I got filled with passions, just like the rest of you. But the logic says that it's going away, right? I mean, that's what the logical conclusion is. So why wait for them to do it? It doesn't make logical sense. I get it from a principled standpoint, and I love having principles. We needed principles, but if the principles make us lose, then we need to reconsider.
Yeah. Let me show you a clip from Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, one of the squad. She said something that, to me, as a conservative, was really bothersome. Let me show that.
Today, to say enough. Our Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act has a remarkable, unprecedented 123 original co-sponsors. Before we've even introduced it, 123 co-sponsors, and it overhauls the detention system. It drastically scales back the use of detention. It ensures that every single immigrant who is in detention has their human and civil rights protected. Our bill also phases out the use of private for-profit detention centers. It prohibits the detention of children and families and makes it harder to detain primary caregivers and vulnerable people like pregnant women or seniors or workers who are whistleblowing on unscrupulous employers. It requires DHS to allow members of Congress to do our jobs and conduct those unannounced inspections that hold these facilities accountable. As an immigrant myself.
All right. So she wants nobody detained. She wants people to be able to roam as if they're going to show up to their court date. Later in this interview, she said that taxpayer money should actually be used to give these immigrants lawyers so that they have a fighting chance to stay in America. Why do they work so hard for illegals and not as hard for their own voters?
Well, Stephen, I won't use the exact phraseology because I don't want to ruin your YouTube the algorithm. But I'll say the last word is replacement, and the first one is not good. It means the same as good. It's a synonym for good. So that's the phrase there that people can do the math on that. But yeah, but that's what's happening. They care about foreigners more than they care about Americans. And this is it was all given away. That guy Wajahat Ali, who writes for New York Times, among other places, he gave it all away this week. He went in a rant saying that the whites have lost and the browns have won, which is just crazy because I never speak in that racial language, but the left does. And he said that they're coming in and they're doing chain migration to replace Americans. And they're just, they're very open about it. And they care about American taxpayers, our money going to protect people who should not be here, have no legal right to be here. And we've gone through this experiment and we've just seen crime go up, housing prices go up for Americans, unnecessary competition for American jobs, less cohesive culture, more balkanization within our communities. It is just not a better America than when we try this experiment where we'll just import a bunch of people and treat them not like equal to us, Stephen, but superior. The illegal aliens are treated as the best Americans. And until that stops, then we can't have a rational conversation about this. I grew up in LA. I live in northern LA County now. This is a real melting pot. There's all sorts of great cultures here. And I like that stuff. I got to be honest with you. I do. I think it helps in general. But we can't even talk about any of that now so long as we've opened borders and we have politicians who are out there who are saying we're going to confiscate at gunpoint resources from American families in order to pay for illegal aliens so they could stay here illegally.
Crazy.
That is completely insane to me. Until that stuff talks, we can't talk about any sort of diversity in an intelligent way.
Yeah. Okay. You brought up SNAP benefits. So yesterday we saw that Trump's main lady, Brooke Rollins, she is now suing to get the data for SNAP in the Democrat areas that are still trying to bury this information. And now another one of those fake stories that they used during the Schumer shutdown, they said, wait a minute, this did so well, we're bringing back a sequel. And we all know the sequel's never as good as the original movie, right? But the sequel here is Donald Trump is starving American children until he gets his data, right? Like all they want to do is get rid of the fraud, waste, and the abuse. If you don't want to hand over your data, is it because you really are trying to protect data or because you know there's fraud, waste, and abuse inside of it?
Yeah, that's why. And I think that the SNAP abuse, if we look at it, it's only blue states who are doing it. So it's clearly buying votes. It's all just trying to, again, confiscate money from the productive members of society and hand them out in the name of votes. And it's one of these things where there are parts of the program that make sense, but the left always uses the things that appeal to our good graces and they appeal to our empathy for other people who are struggling, and then they take huge advantage of that. The idea that this is an expensive country and people who are really needed, and you know, the proverbial single mom with kids who has to work overtime shifts and then she gets some sort of benefit to make sure the kids eat. Of course, none of us actually have a problem with that. That's not what the program turns out to be. It turns out to be people who don't want to work or don't want to work enough to afford the groceries that they want, that they're using government money to buy stuff. We saw all these viral videos during the shutdown. Borson cheese, which is what they were using on The Bear, the show about Michelin star restaurants. They're using the same cheese and making stuffed salmon with that I don't even splurge on. I got 3 jobs. That's what they're doing with the SNAP money. And not all of it's nutritious. They're using it at places that serve you highly processed food, not just processed food, highly processed foods, generally high calorie and low nutrient density. And we can't have some sort of audit of this. We have to. And the standard needs to be, there needs to be deep accountability for people who get on these programs. And until we're able to do that accountability, we need to start thinking about winding some of them down.
Yeah. Let me show you in the audience some of the waste, fraud, and abuse that was brought up.
We had a couple of people receiving benefits in 6 states. In February of this year, we asked for all the states for the first time to turn over their data to the federal government to let the USDA partner with them to root out this fraud, to make sure that those who really need food stamps are getting them, but also to ensure that the American taxpayer is protected. 21 states said yes, not surprised. 29 states said yes, not surprisingly, the red states. And that's where all of that data, that fraud comes from. But 21 states, including California, New York, and Minnesota, the blue states, continue to say no. So as of next week, we have begun and will begin to stop moving federal funds into those states until they comply and they tell us and allow us to partner with them to root out this fraud and to protect the American taxpayer. As Joe Biden was working to buy an election a year ago, he increased food stamp program funding by 40%. So now as we continue to roll that back.
All right. He increased food stamp recipients by 40% in an effort to buy votes.
That's right.
Now they're breaking the law, not turning that data over. Again, this whole thing is just to cover up the scam of these blue states.
Well, why wouldn't you turn over the data if you're operating above board? Of course you would. All it does want us to see the scope of it, because again, that's they try to control narrative, and if they can get away with not turning over the data, it's a quick news cycle. You and I talk about it for a day, but if they turn over the data, it's going to be worse, because we're going to see massive amounts of fraud. We're going to see money spent on people that it shouldn't be spent on, and them spending that money on places where they shouldn't be spending it. And it's just it's a culture of corruption that we're enshrining in this country, because the Democrats won't stand up to their own voter base. Their own voter base, many of them want this stuff. They want to be a part of the fraud, and the Democrats are really a part of it. It's like they always talk about Trump doing racketeering, RICO stuff. It's just organized crime. That's all this is. That's what's being revealed here.
Yeah. Remember they said there's no illegals on Social Security. We find out there's a ton of illegals. No illegals are voting. We find out there's a ton of illegals voting.
Right. And they say Trump's deporting American citizens, but they can't find any. Like, they can't name one that he's deporting.
Yeah. We're not signing people up with Motor Voter. Hundreds of thousands of people signed up with Motor Voter. There's no fraud in the SNAP program. You can't get on Medicare and Medicaid. We find billions and billions of dollars. And we also are told, there's no fraud among these Somalis up in Minnesota. Right. Now you've got 480 employees in Minnesota saying there is fraud. We warned about it. And Tim Walz ignored it because he needed the votes. This all comes down to votes.
Stephen, can I say something about the motor voter thing? Because you threw this out there. I'm in California, which is ground zero for this. I had to renew my driver's license or get a new car registration or one of the other recently. And you go through the process and you get funneled in online, immediately into registering to vote and immediately into automatically getting your ballot sent to you at home. The left is so dialed in on this. And you wonder how they win races, how people like Gavin Newsom gets elected. This is because when they're in power, they figure out ways to make it as easy as possible for low propensity Democrats to get registered to vote, get the ballots sent to their house, where they got community organizers sitting there waiting to make sure that they're knocking on doors and they're turning out every single Democrat vote. This is the problem. And that's how we get a society that enshrines all this sorts of fraud and overspending and abuse, is because of this exact process that you identified.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Speaking of fraud and abuse, looks like Jack Smith has officially been subpoenaed for deposition with the House Judiciary Committee. They're going to force him to testify behind closed doors on December 17th. All of the people that were brought in about the cover-up of Joe Biden's health? Or do you think that Democrats are going to somehow use him to get a bunch of false stories, fabricated stories out into the mainstream media?
So Jack Smith's special counsel was illegal. So it was not a real job. It was unconstitutional. I have a chapter on this in Breaking the Law. Thank you again for the opportunity to share that with to disclose what he knew and when he knew it, because think about this, how insane this is. His job was fake. It was a fake job. It was like the scene in Office Space where Milton keeps showing up and keeps getting, but his job doesn't exist, and they keep giving him a paycheck, and he's complaining about the stapler. That was Jack Smith. He had no job. It was completely unconstitutional the whole time. It just took 18 months for it to get worked out in the courts. And in the meantime, he's going through, hundreds of interviews, hundreds of subpoenas, if not thousands, making people's life a living hell, and then leaking to the establishment media, which is probably illegal in its own right, all this information to control narrative. So you would have thought that Donald Trump was running a criminal enterprise to be involved in, January the 6th and to rig an election and all of these things that were just couldn't be further from the truth. But the point is, it didn't even matter what he was investigating because he didn't have a real job. It is truly one of the scandals of the century that this happened, that he was allowed to operate the way he was. And you get this left-wing wife who's making documentaries about left-wing causes. It is just, this could be a whole expose, if this is done effectively, into the whole lawfare superstructure. And that's why I'm excited to see this investigation taking place. But I will add the caveat that you knew was coming. I have very little trust that the investigators in Washington any significant pressure out of Jack Smith and his team, but they should. They got to try, and I hope it bears some fruit.
Do you make these mistakes with mason jars? Most people just sip lattes or store sourdough in them, but smart people use mason jars for what they actually do best. Listen.
Pressure out of Jack Smith and his team, but they should. They got to try, and I hope it bears some fruit.
Yeah, I keep wondering, like maybe, he's supposed to come in on December 17th, right? Maybe on like the 15th, Trump just pardons him. just pardon him, and then he still has to come in. And now if he lies or tries to plead the 5th, he ends up having, to tell the truth, but he has immunity, right? Then he can be honest about the laws that were broken under Joe Biden, the collusion under Joe Biden, the collusion under Mayorkas and Garland and all of that. Just come clean with all of it by giving him immunity. But I don't know. I don't.
That would be interesting if he would do it, because I am curious about this, because Jack Smith was, again, in his. I really want to see how he got the job, because I investigated this and I have deep theories about it that I lay out in Breaking the Law. I think it was the work of Lisa Monaco and Vanita Gupta, who are the number 2 and 3 in Garland's Justice Department. I think without a doubt, the Biden White House would have coordinated. I don't think anything like this would have ever happened without the President of the United States knowing about this directly. So, or whoever was handling Joe Biden at the time. So I would like to hear about what they knew, deep recounting of all of the violations that Smith had during his unconstitutional alleged appointment, which was a fake appointment. But he disobeyed court orders repeatedly on proceedings and discovery, and he rushed out that 165-page super-length brief, which is completely atypical, and he did this right before the election in order to try to clearly manipulate the election, that's what this was all about. Stephen, in a nutshell, the Jack Smith case was election interference. It was the Biden Justice Department trying to make it so that the people could not decide who was president of the United States. So it's high time that there's accountability here.
Yeah. Another thing I would like to know is, like, how did he get a judge to allow the FBI to raid Mar-a-Lago and to take shoot bullets if necessary? I want to understand that. I want to understand better how he got a judge to allow him to spy on sitting senators, why it was only Republican. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we need to understand. But sure. I'm with you in your research in Breaking the Law that there's no way that the Biden Oval Office was not in on this.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the whole cases against Trump, 2 of which were under Jack Smith's purview. There's always a connection to Joe Biden's White House. There always is. And that is all not just illegal, but it should be offensive to all Americans. If we're an exceptional country, it's partially because we're supposed to have the government by the will of the people. And when you've got this level of the White House getting involved to try to get the legal system to prevent the people from choosing the president of the United States, basically eliminate their main political opponent using the justice system that they largely control to do that, the scandals don't get any bigger than that, and that's exactly what happened. And thus far, we launched the Tish James investigation. We got the Jack Smith investigation. I got a feeling Fani Willis we haven't heard the last of her. So I'm optimistic we'll make some progress here, but we've got to show some energy.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, final question is about Fani Willis. So she's the district attorney. She brings what they say is the final nail in the coffin, the death nail to get Donald Trump. To make it look even worse, they hit him with RICO charges. They bring in 18 or 19 other people. This thing's becoming massive, lots of energy. They're saying this is the worst scandal in American history. After she's removed for abusing her office, the financial purse, having a secret love affair, the new guy starts. There's nothing. We have to drop this case. So this went from the biggest thing in American history to the biggest nothing burger.
This is one of the more fun cases to talk about and write about, and amongst my favorite chapters in the book was going through this case, which was such a disaster that even the key generals in the lawfare superstructure, and I'm thinking Andrew Weissman, who is familiar to your audience for being one of the main forces behind the Russia hoax, and then became one of the main commentators on MSNBC, MS Now, whatever you want to call it, trying to sell these lies to the public. And even he was out there saying this case is going nowhere. This judge can't stand Fani Willis. She is making mistake after mistake. She's so sloppy. So we always knew we were going to win this one. And I did write at the very end that even though the case should have been thrown out a long time ago, that's okay, because one day it will be, and then we'll have a fun news cycle. So this conversation now, I kind of predicted it when I was writing it, because I thought that this thing is going to get thrown out completely. But the whole thing, start to finish, was insane. That she's got a Georgia court, and she's trying to bust Trump for RICO, so racketeering. So Trump was basically running a mafia to win a federal election, a national election. She has no jurisdiction to do this. None. Not at all. It's completely absurd she tried to try it. And then she gets all these other people who are less powerful, less well-known, more poor, and she gets them all in, and then she gets them all mugshots, and some of them cried uncle, which I wish they didn't do that, because it sends a message to the media that paying for legal bills because Fani Willis was giving them a hard time. She puts her boyfriend on the case, Nathan Wade, who was a family lawyer. I know a lot of your audience will remember this, but he did divorces and prenups. And all of a sudden, he's on a RICO case trying to bust Donald Trump. And he's getting White House visits. Stephen, this is like one of your local divorce lawyers. All of a sudden is getting called to the White House for 8 hours at a time. What could they be talking about? This guy was a total nobody. And all of a sudden he's showing up at the White House. Why? Because he was getting it on with Fani Willis. And he left his family for her, and they were using government money to go on vacations, which they got busted for that, which is why Wade had to leave the case. And all the...
Oh boy.
Drinking cold water before bed improves eyesight overnight. Thousands of people are doing this every night as they sleep by adding...
Had to leave the case. And all this got found out because they went after this guy named Mike Roman, who's one of the greatest opposition researchers in the history of the Republic, who's been a source of mine for many years at Breitbart, and they included him in the indictment, and he just went to town finding every single thing they ever did wrong in their whole lives, and that ended up being the death knell of the case. But a complete miscarriage of justice. I'm laughing, and it's funny, but it's also horrifying that something so thin, so ridiculous, could go on as long as it did.
Trump was having a divorce family lawyer secretly meet in the White House multiple times. Or in the middle of, a divorce, the prenups being called into question. He's the worst dad on planet Earth. Stormy Daniels was in the back room. Like, this thing would just spin out of control. But the Bidens do it, and they go, no, it was just a lovely meeting. And, you know, he billed them
hanging out
for it. You know, once they couldn't cover it up. Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, you predicted it. This is why they call you Alex Nostradamus Marlowe. Just today, I made that up. But Alex, it's always great to have you on. Like me, you probably read so much, it's hard to know exactly which stories to bring to a news show. But I felt like these were important ones. If people want to catch your show online, where can they do that?
Yeah, for this audience, YouTube. You can also get it, you know, Apple, Spotify. But I love whenever I do these, I always see a few new people pop up on my feed, and people leave nice comments, and that means a lot to me because I'm working real hard to try to give you a great daily show.
Oh, well, you're doing a great job. Hey, thank you so much. I'm going to put those direct links so people can find you easily. We'll have you on in the future. Have a great rest of your day.
Stephen, you're a good friend.
Not only is America about to see a new round of deportations, but some government officials could go to jail.
In fact, according to a new bombshell, Minnesota have defrauded nearly $1 billion in taxpayer-funded benefits under Democrat Governor Walz's leadership.
Do you stand by that claim of calling to Walz? I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure. You don't think you have a problem with him? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him.
Wow.
Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into the state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia.
Wow.
We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
This is about purging people like me from this country.
Okay, so they're trying to delegitimize this fraud investigation as if it's some attack on a community of 192,000 people.
Protected status for Somalia, a designation the country has had since 1991.
We should never use a small community as a scapegoat.
The move would impact more than 700 people in the U.S. and more than 400 Somali migrants in Minnesota, which is a small fraction of the roughly 80,000 Somali Minnesotans.
That could change because apparently they're going to be re-vetting people now.
And we frankly don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
Are you talking about DNAP?
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution. Brother, well, if that's true, she should be a congressman, and we should throw that out of our country.
You understand that if a person commits a crime
of this fraud,
and that you don't put that crime on a whole community.
Bombshell ICE sweep in Minneapolis-St. Paul finds 50% of immigrants had committed immigration fraud. 50% of immigrants had committed immigration fraud in the city of Minneapolis. The city of Ilhan Omar.
Some Somali Minnesotans are among the 80 people charged in connection to the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, which prosecutors say defendants stole millions of dollars intended to feed hungry children.
But what's even more shocking are the governor of the state's connections to all of this and what could happen to him.
In Minnesota, you have a big Somali population, and they found out that, is it $1 billion? It's $1 billion, I believe,
$1 billion
going to Somalia. And that is going to a terrorist organization.
Out of the country. $1 billion out of the country.
Somalia. Why are tax dollars, if you live in Minnesota,
this is so
you're
wild.
Going to work, you're working really hard, some of your paycheck is going to benefit.
It's going overseas.
According to this investigation, a terrorist organization.
Including the pandemic aid.
That's exactly right.
So the pandemic aid, this governor not only allowed the riots to go crazy with George Floyd, when the money came flooding in, he had no idea where it was going. When whistleblowers stood up and said, this is fraudulent, this is fake, this money's going to the wrong people, he went after the whistleblowers. That's the investigation. Now, the Justice Department announced new charges last week against a 78th defendant in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, which prosecutors say involved more than $250 million in stolen funds alone on a federally funded child nutrition program that has already resulted in over 50 convictions.
And they stole from kids, and the governor punished the people who reported it. Listen to this.
convictions. So the governor had an opportunity to address this, and you would think that he would take the criticism and
You
say,
think so?
know, I made a mistake. You know, he was on the campaign trail talking about that's what leaders do when he was running for vice president.
Could have been vice
but when
president.
he was pressed on it, he had this to say.
What's he got to say?
Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your
Probably
state?
not.
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire
That's not what's
community on
happening.
the actions of a few, it's lazy. But that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions.
Trump's
He's not gonna
deflecting.
fix anything on fraud.
He's deflecting.
It's not that anyone's trying to demonize that group, Somalis. We're just saying, how did you let it get this far? $1 billion of
Out of the
taxpayer
country.
dollars? Who was in charge of that money?
Tim
Why
Walz
was it
was in
sent to another
charge.
country? Why is it benefiting a terrorist organization? You have answers, and you have taxpayers. You have constituents who want to have some answers.
But the worst part about it is
Governor Tim Walz has come under fire. Hundreds of social service workers publicly are blaming him for a massive fraud scandal that's been rocking the welfare system.
They're
in the
blaming
state.
him.
Staff at Minnesota Human Services Department say widespread false billing allegedly funneled more than $1 billion in taxpayer funds to nonprofits that are tied to the Somali community. Now, they claim Walz ignored their warnings, even punished whistleblowers. Officials now are still uncovering how deep the fraud went and whether any of the money may have reached terror groups overseas. Investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has been all over the story, really.
And this guy could have been running
from the
America.
jump, as
Think
they say.
about
Joins
that.
us now. What's the governor's office saying about these new developments?
Yeah, what are they saying about these new developments?
Hi, Connell. Well, we asked, and the governor's office isn't formally commenting on
they're not
these posts that were posted onto X as of yesterday by allegedly hundreds of DHS, Minnesota DHS workers.
Wow.
I'll read some just because they're stunning
This
in their
is so
rebuke
crazy.
of Governor Walz. Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response.
That's what regimes do. When you criticize the regime comes in and they put people in jail.
Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports instead of partnership. Just wondering who we can turn to now. In an interesting development, this afternoon, that account was suspended from X for a period of hours, but then put back online.
Who did
There was a lot of outcry as a commentary account and under a slightly different name with the same amount of followers.
Weird.
We asked the Department of Health, Human Services, in Minnesota to confirm if they are associated with this in any way, and they said they could not. What is not in question
That's
here,
insane.
Connell, is the amount of fraud. We're talking $1 billion in fraud that we've reported on.
If $1 billion was sent out of Minnesota to other countries, forget what it may have been used for. If $1 billion in fraudulent money meant for legal U.S. residents exited the country, what do you think would have been happening to America if these people were running it?
Wrote to former
Would she
Vice
have
President
stopped
Harris
this?
and the DNC multiple times, warning them about
So they
Governor
knew.
Walz and what they described as his incompetence.
She
fraud
knew.
scandals and retaliation. Here's
And
what
she
they
was
said.
okay
We tried
with it.
our
She
best
was
to
still
keep
her
the
VP.
public informed as our tweets are public. Maybe Kamala turned a blind eye to fraud like her running mate. Over the years, our messages have not changed. We need fraud to stop in Minnesota.
That is
and there's
crazy.
governance to be restored. Minnesota is currently at
Insane.
the center of a widening fraud scandal. Federal prosecutors continue to unravel this. One of the nation's largest COVID-era fraud cases. So what happened here, Chris, is that really going back to the COVID days, there's this agency,
going on for
the
years.
Minnesota Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Fund. There's also another one, Feeding Our Future. Money was being stolen by those in the Somali community in the Twin Cities, and it was going back to Somalia. They were funneling it, and then it was ending up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, which is a designated terrorist organization.
Right, and so I did not have Minnesota's welfare funds going to terrorist organizations on my bingo card, and that's what is so frustrating about all this, because we knew Tim Walz was a disastrous VP candidate. He's a dork. He's very annoying. He's supposed to be this everyman, but doesn't know.
We didn't know he was stealing.
The president used a different word for that. But the oppo, the research that should have been done during the campaign, should have brought this up. This is a huge bombshell. That
he was their candidate.
Does he have all those negative characteristics? Oh, by the way, his government was also funding terrorists and Al-Shabaab in Somalia. That should have been devastating for the Harris-Walz campaign.
It could be. We could be talking about
it was
$1 billion
swept under the rug.
And
if this has been going on for years, for half a decade, and nobody knew about it, were we ever supposed to know about this?
The first time I saw this yesterday was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Oh yeah, they're going in now. There's going to be criminal referrals.
Investigation. I mean, this is millions and millions of dollars coming from taxpayers going to this terrorist.
Well, even
allegedly.
Yeah, even the New York Times, which, as we know, is typically very friendly to Democrats, leading with an article, quote, "How Fraud Swamped Minnesota's Social Services System on..."
For you and you're on their team, you know it's over.
In the wake of last week's atrocity, it is more important than ever to finish carrying out the president's mass millions upon millions of unvetted illegal aliens to be rewarded with amnesty after they broke our nation's laws to come here. They must go back to their home countries. It is also essential to immediately address the massive fraud and corruption that has been going on for decades in other aspects of our immigration system, most notably when it comes to asylum claims. Millions of people who have come here under false pretenses are told blatant lies now enjoy temporary legal status. President Trump is ending this scam as well. And I would point out that the Democrats have tried to block this administration from doing so at every turn with lawsuit after lawsuit.
So you have two things happening here at the exact same time. You have massive amounts of American money leaving the country, money which is supposed to be for legal residents, immigrants, American citizens, green card holders, and at the exact same time, you have people coming into the country under entirely false pretenses who aren't supposed to be here and who may in some way be connected to the fraud that's happening. And for a leader to get up and say, oh, these investigations, this doesn't matter because most of the people here are all citizens or all have legal status in some manner. Well, if those people achieve that status in an illegitimate manner, that will now be looked into as well, apparently.
System. Past presidents have failed to ensure that all prospective citizens love America, will add value and contribute to our communities, and will assimilate into our culture. Leaders have a duty to defend and advance the interests of their own people, not foreign nationals. Leaders also have a duty to preserve the integrity and character of our nation's national identity. That is why President Trump is more committed than ever to fully restoring American sovereignty by keeping our borders secure, removing all illegal alien invaders, and rebuilding a legal immigration system that makes sense and benefits our country.
It starts as an idea.
What are we waiting for?
That turns into a plan. With Bobcat by your side, you've got a game for anything powerhouse to build the world you want to live in. Bobcat, one tough animal.
Treasury House panel launches probe into Tim Walz's handling of $1 billion fraud and could make criminal referrals. Criminals stole nearly $1 billion, yes. And there are going to be subpoenas. The funds were also used to splurge on the lavish lifestyles of certain nonprofit workers, fancy cars, real estate holdings in other nations. The fraud. He even admitted that he was aware of suspicious activity since November 2020, but for some reason, I guess, didn't do anything.
You said that you might denaturalize some American citizens.
This is the denaturalization.
That shouldn't be here?
That became Americans. Are you trying
we'll see. I mean, yeah.
They're going to look into it.
That came into our country and they were naturalized maybe through a Biden or somebody that didn't know what they were doing. If I have the power to do it, I'm not sure that I do, but if I do, I would denaturalize absolutely.
Wow, they are not happy about that.
What do you mean by reverse migration? It means get people out that are in our country, get them out of here. I want to get them out. We got a lot of people in our country that shouldn't be here, and they came in through Biden, and he was the worst president in the history of our country. But the single biggest thing he did was allow millions of people into our country that shouldn't be here.
Can you imagine if the Governor Walz, were sitting just steps away from the White House and were teaming up with Vice President Harris to run America after President Biden was in charge? Do you have any idea what types of scandals would be happening, scandals that we might find out about or might be completely hidden from the American people while the border remained wide open? Can you believe that?
Of the 86 that have been indicted so far, 79 of them are of Somali descent. It's the majority of those who have been indicted to date, and they tell us this number is going to go up.
Okay. Wow. Now I mentioned at the top this concern. What can you tell us, if anything, about that?
So we also have our own reporting on this. We talked to federal sources, both current, former, and also joint terrorism sources, who said, yes, this money makes its way to Somalia, and of that money, there's a cut of it that goes to an Al-Qaeda linked terror group, Al-Shabaab. They said we can't do a forensic accounting of it because we don't know once it's over there, but it's but it's there for sure, and they were unequivocal about it and when we talked to them.
So, is this the entire Somali community in America? Absolutely not. Google says there's between 170,000 and 190,000 people who might be very alarmed by what's going on here. Most of those people, I happen to believe, are people who love America and don't want anything to do with this fraud. But billions of dollars are missing. They vanished from America, and it looks like the people in charge were warned about it, knew about it, and never did anything about it. What do you think about all of this? What should happen to anybody who facilitated this? Let me know. See you in the next video.
What's the quickest way to reduce leg swelling? Is it drinking lots of water? Nope. Avoiding salt? Nope. Compression socks? Nope. Do this to slim down swollen legs fast.
Two unthinkable announcements, both of which I'll cover today. Each one has MAGA voters excited, while Democrats and on Twitter to their fans. Let's start off with a strong military story. The White House defended a U.S. military strike on September 2nd in the Caribbean Sea after reports surfaced that the Navy Vice Admiral Frank Bradley ordered a second missile strike on a suspected drug smuggling vessel, one that allegedly killed survivors from the first strike. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had authorized kinetic strikes, and that Bradley's follow-up strike was meant to ensure the vessel was completely neutralized. President Trump said the second strike personally made him uneasy, but he stands by Pete Hegseth and called Bradley an American war hero. These operations are part of a broader effort targeting cartels the U.S. says are tied to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The campaign has killed more than 80 people and has involved U.S. naval resources. Now, bipartisan lawmakers, including Republican Senator John Thune, Roger Wicker, Jack Reed, and now Chuck Schumer, Mike Rogers, and Mike Turner, they're all calling for an investigation into Pete Hegseth. Many have called for him to step down. However, he says, I didn't order the second strike, and we didn't know there were any survivors. Chuck Schumer went off, saying that he wants to know exactly what happened and that he is calling for an investigation. He said, let me be clear. If Donald Trump continues his action against Venezuela, we will immediately fire a war powers resolution to block the deployment of U.S. forces to Venezuela. The power to declare war lies solely in the hands of Congress, not Donald Trump. And my new friend, Professor Nez, down at the bottom says, you put the ace in disgrace. So President Trump isn't declaring war. He is simply letting these countries know that if you think you can just get away with killing Americans through sending drugs our way, you've got another thing coming to you. Now, Maduro put out a statement saying that these strikes on boats is psychological terrorism, and Venezuela's assembly is now investigating the deaths. Trump said he met with his team to discuss the next steps and confirmed that he had an additional phone call with Nicolas Maduro and that tensions are high. Now, let me show you exactly what Pete Hegseth said about this story, because they're now trying to get him impeached and removed, saying that he is a war criminal that deserves to be court-martialed or hung. Let me go ahead and show this to you, because they would love nothing else than to have one
on fire. It's exploded in fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
So he's saying, listen, we're not going to apologize for keeping America safe, for keeping drugs out of our country. President Trump is going to go on to say something absolutely unthinkable, but I'm going to tell you right now that I completely agree with what is going to be shared. Now, this is a story that is getting a lot of attention. Many are calling for Hegseth to be removed. But as he said right there, you guys throw out colorful phrases backed by anonymous sources. But even the New York Times is now saying that they've done an investigation. They've talked to 5 U.S. officials who separately said that there's nothing here, that his directive was to use missiles to take this out. It had nothing to do with a second strike or killing people so that you could cover up the crime of the situation. So, and you guys know, the New York Times, that's basically the CIA, and they hate President Trump. So if they're coming out saying this, you know that there is something to it. All right, now President Trump made a very interesting comment. This is a guy who does not want a porous border. He wants the military on the border. He wants a border, but now he wants boundaries. So he started with the border. Now he's moved on to boundaries. Listen to what he had to say from his cabinet meeting about any country that dares to kill Americans by sending drugs up our way. He's absolutely not going to stand for it, even for a second.
You just mentioned potential land strikes. Can you elaborate anything on that?
Yeah, I'll elaborate. If they come into a certain country or any country, or if we think they're building mills for whether it's fentanyl or cocaine. I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, is making cocaine. They have cocaine manufacturing plants, okay? And then they sell us the cocaine. We appreciate that very much. But yeah, anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
So not necessarily just Venezuela.
No, not just Venezuela. No. Venezuela's been very bad. Venezuela's been really bad in something else, probably worse than most. But a lot to our country, they would empty their jails into our country. They send people into our country that we don't want. They send their drug dealers and their drug people into our country. They send people from their mental institutions into our country, and we're getting them out. That was bad. That was.
Watch what magnesium does to your bowels.
If you have to wipe more than 4 times after you poop, here's why.
The Mayo Clinic confirms that stuck poop can cause these embarrassing skid marks in your undies. You see, when stuck poop causes...
Bad. That was real bad. And they also sent drugs. Yep.
So President Trump just said any country that he finds out is trying to kill the American people through drug trafficking, they are subject to attack. They are subject to the United States unleashing the full force of the U.S. Treasury as well as the U.S. military in order to make sure that our people are safe. Now, Fox News opinion columnist Hugh Hewitt, someone that many people respect, argues that President Trump has clear constitutional authority under Article 2 to launch military strikes against narco states like Venezuela without congressional approval. He is the commander-in-chief over the U.S. military. He is not declaring war, but he is putting up a boundary that you cannot kill our people through drugs and fentanyl and other things. He is simply not going to stand for it. Hugh Hewitt dismissed critics, including legal experts and former military judges weighing in, by citing from Thomas Jefferson to Barack Obama, even Clinton and Bush with the invasion of Panama. Hewitt also versus Curtis Wright and Dames and Moore versus Reagan, which affirms broad presidential power in foreign affairs during emergencies. Hewitt argues that national sovereignty demands a strong executive able to act decisively, and says President Trump's limited strikes on drug boats falls within his authority. Attacking somebody bringing drugs to America is not the same as declaring war. He then gives a warning saying criminal nations had better not bank on Trump's critics as their means for making this end, that President Trump has the legal presidential authority to keep America safe. And that's exactly what he's doing, right? And I, for one, I applaud it. I don't like seeing boats blown up. But you know what else I hate reading every damn day is children overdosing on fentanyl. I was reading just the other day that the cocaine crisis in Europe is out of control. Where does it come from? Colombia, up through Venezuela. So I think that there's some precedence here. All right, let me move on to the next story with you guys. This one involves a major trade policy war. Costco has filed a lawsuit against President Trump and his administration. The company wants court rules that President Trump did not have authority. Costco went on to say that they don't want President Trump to have National Emergency Economic Powers Act, saying that these tariffs are making it hard for them to have stable prices. Therefore, they don't want the president to negotiate prices on their behalf. They say that this power lies solely in the hands of Congress. Now, the company also points to the instability created by the tariffs, saying that they have to mark down, mark up, or modify every time the market gets disrupted. The Trump administration argued back that the tariffs are legal under the IEEPA because they regulate import during emergencies and warn that giving refunds could trigger major economic fallout. President Trump maintains that tariffs have brought in billions of dollars for the government and allowed him to end multiple wars, and he has nearly $18 trillion in committed foreign investment, something that Biden only got $1 trillion over 4 years. He says, I've done 18 times as much good for the country in 10 months, and Democrats and rhinos are risking the country in order to get back at me. Now, the Supreme Court has said that they will weigh in on this and expect to return a verdict on what will happen. And Letitia James celebrated way too early. They thought that they were going to get away with coming after Trump and him just stepping back. Listen to what was shared about these two fools over on CNN.
Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James to a grand jury. According to people familiar with the situation inside the Justice Department, it is expected to happen quickly, perhaps Within a week, the court tossed out both the Comey and James cases. The judge found interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan did not have the legal authority of a prosecutor when the two were indicted.
So, within a week, we're going to see James Comey indicted all over again. This time, I think they should go harder on him. Yeah. We're also going to see Letitia James, and I think that they should go hard on her because Trump did nothing wrong, and we can't let people get away with this kind of political lawfare. All right, shifting to immigration enforcement, the Trump administration is increasing its focus on certain immigrant communities in specific states. According to reports, ICE has been directed to prioritize undocumented Somali immigrants in the state of Minnesota because they have stolen over $1 billion and shipped that money back to terrorist organizations, Al-Shabaab. The administration is also reviewing green cards, with President Trump promising to end temporary protected status for Somalians. He justified this by repeating something that could affect many people in the area. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced an investigation into whether Minnesota taxpayer money had been funneled to Al-Shabaab through Al-Qaeda. Now, Minnesota is home to over 80,000 Somalian immigrants, the largest Somalian community in America, and it is believed that U.S. Governor Tim Walz knew about this and did nothing. Listen to what President Trump had to say about the situation earlier today during his cabinet meeting.
Which is barely a country. You know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years, I watch her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. It hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at, I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Somebody said, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I can say that about other countries, too. We don't.
So he is now ordering a direct investigation into Tim Walz, these immigrant populations, and whether they were funding terrorism by stealing money from American citizens. Very, very sad, but we will get to the bottom of that. Now, President Trump had a jaw-dropping moment as people were leaving. Let me go ahead and show that to you. And let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with President Trump.
They would complain. They complained. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country.
That's right.
Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
The charger actually repairs your phone while charging, and everyone thinks it's too good to be true. Nobody believed me at first, but now everybody wants one. My friends wrote.
That's right. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much.
All right, so he is saying, listen, why are we taking in third world immigrants that have no skills and they're not contributing to the tax base? They're literally 88% of them are living on the taxpayer dole.
Yep.
And they're stealing money. Like, this is crazy. This is not who we want to invite, right? So he is now saying he wants a major with Russia remains extremely high. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned today that Russia is ready right away for war if Europe decides to start one. His comments were in response to Hungary's foreign minister claiming Europe is preparing for conflict. President Putin insisted Russia does not want war with Europe, but accused European leaders of undermining U.S.-led Ukrainian peace talks by making unacceptable demands and blaming Russia for stalled progress. He said European governments are on the side of war and the United States is on the side of peace. This comes after a long series of threats, including nuclear escalation in 2024 and response to Western military aid. Now, nearly 4 years into the war, President Putin recently met with U.S. delegations, including Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, following what he called productive talks in Florida with Ukrainian negotiators and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned against watering down agreements from the August Alaska summit. Putin said Trump's peace plan is worth discussing, but only if Europe is coming to the table seriously. Right now, Europe is planning to pour billions and billions of dollars into Ukraine to support them. Russian President Vladimir Putin is saying, how am I supposed to believe they want this war to come to an end when their actions are putting up billions of dollars? I'll continue to keep you updated on that. All right, if you could, give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, stay amazing, and I will see you on the next video.
Watch this, guys. Watch this.
Is this your yard? You never saw me.
What's up, guys? Spenny. It looks like Zelensky is back on the fairy dust. In a recent video from inside of his creepy little office in Ukrainian parliament, you can see obviously a giant bundle of white come straight out of his nose. I don't know how else to describe this. Certainly not the first time that there's been some major allegations about Zelensky and where all the American dollars have been blown. I'll just let you decide. Is there a wonder why he and Hunter Biden were such close friends and why Hunter spent so much time? Things must be extremely stressful for Zelensky as his chief of staff, his closest friend, his partner in crime, been raided and forced to resign in what is clearly a message to Voldemort Zelensky that his days are numbered. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff resigned after residence was searched by anti-corruption investigators. They busted down his door of his home office, vacation house, took everything. Guy's name is Andrei Yermak. Tucker Carlson predicted this, by the way. Yermak has been a longtime trusted confidant of Zelensky and resisted persistent pressure to replace him. He wears a $40,000 Swiss watch.
If you were locked up in Illinois juvie at Cook County, the Audi home, or anywhere else in the system, this is the money glitch that's getting former detainees properly compensated. Illinois juvenile
$1,000 Swiss watch. And he's allegedly stolen hundreds of millions of dollars. Got in palatial estates, sort of a golden parachute for he and Zelensky as they defrauded the American taxpayer, because that's just pretty much all that happens these days. We're such idiots as a country. We should really stop allowing this to happen to our side. Zelensky said Russia was waiting for Ukraine to make a misstep and upset its delicate, tense peace negotiations. We don't have a right to retreat or argue between ourselves. If we lose unity, we risk losing everything. Ukraine, our future, Zelensky said, we must unite. Hold on. We must have no other choice. We don't have another Ukraine. Well, Ukraine doesn't. There is no Ukraine left. I'll prove that to you, ladies and gentlemen. I can prove that to you right here. Here are the population charts of Ukraine. This is what the population. You can see here that the baby making ages of Ukraine. See that inversion right there, right where every other country should have a massive amount of 20 to 40-year-olds that are like starting families. They're all dead. You killed them all. They all have fled your country or they're all dead. Ukraine doesn't have a future. It's a country of extremely old, crippled people, extremely young people who probably don't have any more parents. And you're done. You committed suicide. It's so stupid. It's so evil. And we funded it. And it's so wrong. In his nightly address, Zelensky announced that he was resetting the presidential office. He said Yermak had submitted his resignation, that he would begin consultations to appoint a new chief of staff. Okay, not good. This obviously means that they're closing, the noose on Zelensky if you're going after his right-hand man for a $100 million corruption scandal. He's the most powerful figure in Ukraine, key player in the negotiations. There's footage of the raid. Obviously, you might even recognize this guy if you follow the conflict closely. He's like always constantly right beside. It's gracious. His days are numbered for sure. Yeah. Just a reminder that in the resources, this dude's out here wearing a 39. Okay, so in pound, so in euros, so something more like a $50,000 watch. Wearing a $50,000 watch. Got it. Yeah, things are going bad. And it just got worse for the guy blowing literally our tax dollars. Zelensky ordered to resign, forced out in handcuffs if he refuses. Ukrainian MP Artem Dremuk has dropped a political bombshell on his Telegram channel. He says that Volodymyr Zelensky has been ordered to leave the presidency within days. Dremuk, who's a member of parliament in Ukraine, says Zelensky may refuse to comply. He is expected to stall for time to invent causes. If he resists, he may have to be forced out in handcuffs. It's coming to the worst internal crisis in the Zelensky government. Senior officials dismissed, replacements blocked, parliament paralyzed, budget unable to pass, Western support collapsing. And the final blow, Washington has officially accused Zelensky of stealing taxpayer dollars. Messaging behind the scenes is unmistakable. The fall may not be orderly. This may not be peaceful. Ukrainian establishment is preparing for the post-Zelensky era. Here is the member of parliament right here. Here's his account. And boy, he hates Zelensky a lot. Ukraine is killing clergymen, members of parliament, and ordinary citizens. He is speaking up. He is speaking up very strongly against Zelensky. I encourage you to follow this guy. I just did. Zelensky and Yermak are criminals and terrorists. Yermak is a strong manager, one of the very strong managers of my team. I respect him and the results. He does what I tell him to do, and he carries out these tasks. It's always been this way, says Zelensky. This is key. This is not a slip of the tongue. This is political admission, the chain of command, the admission that Yermak acts according to Zelensky's will. For me personally, Zelensky is the head of a criminal organization, entire vertical corruption, political repression, the plundering of the budget to the disappearing of people. Zelensky and Yermak are two sides of the same criminal coin. They stole billions of dollars from Ukraine. They turned the country into their own personal offshore feeding trough and a field for mass looting under the cover of war. Today, our investigation moves closer as we see confirmations on tapes. A small portion of that has become public. Yermak is recorded as the man who, together with Zelensky, is behind the theft of $100 million already officially confirmed. The tip of the iceberg, a teeny episode, a massive system of plunder. These are the tapes that Chucker is talking about. Sorry, the jump here. The most important point, last attempt by Zelensky to pretend that he didn't know or didn't see or didn't control collapses. His own words tell him to do. That is why today we preserve the video, preserve Zelensky's own words, preserve the evidence. Sooner Ukraine gets rid of this duo, the sooner the country will have a chance for life, for peace, for recovery, for its own future. Hot damn. So let's go to this dude's Telegram channel, and I'll read you right now. It's translated from Ukraine. Office immediately after that, the same people asked me the following question: to what extent will Zelensky comply with the order? Has he had enough pressure been applied? Has his crimes been exposed? We already had Zelensky, who was supposed to end the war, resign, and hold elections in May. This was a direct order. He did not fulfill it. Therefore, I approach this issue asymmetrically today. Most difficult time, Zelensky, simultaneously the best time for the citizens of Ukraine. This, without exaggeration, is the best hope to get rid of this regime. We'll need to understand the following. If Zelensky was given an order to leave, by who? By Trump? By the West? By the EU? I don't know. This may take several weeks and months. The person who will drag him out, all sorts of stories will come up with justifications. He'll do everything to delay it. As I've already said, until the FBI puts handcuffs on him, the FBI, he will not understand what is happening. Or the respective philosophers, theologian says, Zelensky is alive, the war will not end. Therefore, I'm answering the Western colleagues on this question about whether Zelensky will carry out an order to leave exactly this week. I say the following. Expecting exact compliance on this specific day means not respecting yourself. It's a very vague perspective. Zelensky may carry out this order for months. He may drag it out, but eventually he will be deprived of his freedom. Says Zelensky's going to jail. Yeah. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think it makes a lot of sense. The Wall Street Journal and multiple news organizations have bona fide, guaranteed proof that this fraud has all happened, and that it's happening right now. And so it should be published. I guess we'll see what happens next. Get ready.
Using cinnamon wrong, and your blood sugar is paying the price. Let me explain. This isn't your typical herbal book. It's a manual. Digestion issues?
Who the hell is it? What do you want? Judas Priest is one of those flaming bags again.
Don't put it out with your boots, Dad.
Don't tell me my business, devil woman.
What's up, Pat Spenny? The FBI isn't perfect. It is a deeply and endemically corrupt institution. Can any man fix the FBI? I'm not sure, but it can at least take some good advice. Upon Dan Bongino and Kash Patel's appointment to FBI director and deputy director, I posted this about 1 year ago, approximately 1 year ago today. I said, I'll say what we're all thinking. Her first. Set the tone right here. Dumpy DEI diversity agent at the FBI. No doubt the first physical activity in a very long time for this agent, kneeling to the BLM rioters and George Floyd terrorists, pledging fealty to them. So an absolute banger here, by the way. 6.6 million views, 81,000 likes. Well, the FBI listened to me, baby. And look at this. The FBI has fired the agents who photographed kneeling in the George Floyd protest. And guess who was among them? There you go.
Yeah, look at that one there. Oompa
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. It's great. Everybody cheers. FBI agents photographed kneeling during George Floyd racial justice protest. Look at how they still do this. Racial justice. You go kill a bunch of people and burn our nation's capital to the ground. We'll call that justice. Way to go. Anyway, there are conflicting reports, however, that are not as sunny or cheery as that one that I just gave you. Everybody wanted the George Floyd kneelers to get fired. This, ladies and gentlemen, just published in the New York Post from Miranda Devine. Now, I know Miranda Devine. I know Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. So this is going to be a tough one. How about this? I'll just pitch it straight down the middle. I'll just tell you what's going on, because this report is tough for Kash and Dan. According to a report, the FBI is labeled a rudderless ship under Bongino. Their personal resumes. FBI Director Kash Patel is facing withering criticism from an alliance of active duty and retired agents and analysts days after the White House denied immediate reports that the president was about to fire him. Troubling new report card in the first 6 months of Patel's leadership concludes that he is in over his head, and his deputy Dan Bongino is something of a clown, according to the alliance, which in 2 previous reports warned about crippling DEI and politicization of the FBI under the Biden administration. The Patel-led FBI is described in the 115-page report as a rudderless ship and all effed up. Okay? That's what some of these people are saying. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of FBI agents that clearly, maybe this is run. Who are these the individuals writing the report? You don't know exactly. It's all anonymous, right? So we're going to present both sides of this, obviously. Here we go. Patel is described by multiple internal sources as inexperienced, with one saying he has neither the breadth of experience nor the daring to be FBI director to be successful. Another source, self-professed Trump supporter, says Patel is not very good, may be insecure, lacks requisite experience, measured self-confidence to be FBI director. So this is what they're saying, among some other, obviously, lurid gossip. May or may not be true. The one that seems to have hit out in the news cycle is about Kash Patel and a jacket. Kash Patel was forced to wear a woman's jacket because he refused to disembark the FBI jet when they landed in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. He didn't have a FBI raid jacket. They found a female special agent's jacket for him, but it did not have any Velcro patches, so he demanded that another agent give him a Velcro patch. So that seems to be the big takeaway here, that Kash didn't have a jacket. Threw a tantrum after being issued a woman's jacket. These are the allegations. Kash Patel, humiliated in an explosive 115-page dossier, reveals FBI agents really think, that they just effectively say that there's not enough professionalism in the FBI and that Kash and Bongino are not up for the job. That's effectively the report. You're welcome to go read the whole thing if you'd like. Obviously, this is, I think the report is right here. Yeah, there you go. So it's a pretty long report for FBI Kash Patel and raid jacket. All right. The Alliance is what they're calling themselves. Okay. You come up with some better, deep state names than this. The Alliance. All right. Kash Patel apparently didn't have his own raid jacket. So this is the big scandal. That he had the wrong jacket size. And he wanted a different jacket. Really? This is it? Fine. So Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have now their own say. Deep state divine strikes again, says Dan Bongino. Oh, baby, here we go. Miranda loves attacking our reform agenda with gossipy anecdotes from disgruntled former employees because she's upset about that her reporting keeps falling apart under scrutiny. You can always count on Miranda for a timed hit piece when the director and I make big changes. Miranda prefers the old guard. I don't. Full steam ahead. And he tags Miranda Devine.
What happens when the prostate enlarges and the urine channel gets tight? Did you know that prostate problems have nothing to do with the actual...
The old guard, I don't. Full steam ahead. And he tags Miranda Devine. So some people are, obviously saying that Miranda is deep state divine. Miranda Devine's a great reporter. I mean, I like Miranda a lot. Say a lot about her, but I don't think she's deep state. She's like the best reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop and Biden corruption. But I guess on our show, but everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? That's my take. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we have Eric Swalwell. This is probably my favorite interaction. So I showed you the bit about the reporting of Kash's jacket. Eric Swalwell says, I don't mind that the FBI director, Kash Patel, had to wear a women's size medium jacket to cosplay somebody in charge. I wish he'd focus on stopping rampant domestic terrorism happening on his watch. The left, I guess, should I be happy that you're acknowledging that there's rampant domestic terrorism? Because there is. In fact, it's all coming from Eric Swalwell's side with Eric Swalwell's encouragement. Let's look at Kash's response here, which is spicy. I was looking for a youth large. Domestic terrorism arrests are up 30% this year. Impressive considering I spent 0 days dating a Chinese spy named Fang Fang. Where should I send your women's medium for date night? Okay. All right. We launched an investigation into the Fang Fang spying nightmare with Eric Swalwell dating a Chinese spy, which he did, getting a staff placed in his office by a Chinese spy, which he did. Be that, ladies and gentlemen. So, is Kash Patel saying he's going to dress Eric Swalwell for his date with a Chinese spy? I don't know. Here's FBI spokesperson Ben Williamson. Kash and Dan took over the agency with an approval rating below 40%, knowing that they came in as disruptors. They're choosing to do things differently, of course, so that's going to receive criticism from the old guard. That's to be expected. What's more surprising here is to see the New York Post elevating a dossier of anonymous complaints. They're calling it gossip. Here's what they don't tell you. The unconventional approach may get criticism, but the data says it's working. Violent crime arrests, 100% increase. Espionage arrests, 40% increase. Homicide rate, double-digit drop from 2024, on track for record low. Child victims identified, 23% increase. Nihilistic violent extremism areas, almost 500% increase with FBI and partners. They've also turned over nearly 40,000 documents to Congress by like Arctic frost nearly every week. You can criticize the approach, but you cannot deny the numbers. They've been historic with President Trump's leadership. Kash, Dan, and Andrew all know the challenge of the bureaucracy comes with pushback. They choose it. And frankly, that's what the voters demanded. Okay, I think that's a good response. Kash is out saying that homicides are down. Violent crime is down. And that they're working to fix it, right? Anonymous sources, here's Bongino from the official account. Anonymous sources say the Ray Comey era FBI are desperately trying to derail our reforms. We're not turning back. Kash and I are laser focused on keeping the homeland safe and crushing violent crime. Pushing principles of broken windows policing along with initiative personnel management, we've sent the murder rate to a historic low, and we've doubled the amount of violent crime arrests in prior years. As you can see, mass killings are also trending to be the lowest in nearly 20 years. Good. Results matter. Not anonymous complaints from disgruntled actors who prefer the Ray Comey weaponized FBI, and we're not going back. Mass killings in 2025 hit lowest level since 2006. I mean, that's huge. There you go. Leadership personnel, strongest, deserve a safe America. I agree. Miranda Devine's hitting back, saying that that Dan Bongino invested in her book. Her laptop from Hell book, which is great. I mean, Miranda Devine's like a great reporter. You know, she's awesome, and I like her a lot. So, yeah, I hate to see mommy and daddy fighting, but it is what it is. It's just how this kind of stuff works. So, what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, what do I think on all this? Of course, people make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. This kind of stuff. Everyone's human. I have my moments, and it's totally embarrassing, you know, and I have to apologize to the people that I work with or my wife or whatever, you know, like sometimes the pressures just get to you. And this is not a high pressure job compared to running the FBI. The real question is, can any man fix the FBI? Is this an organization that needs to be ripped up root and stem and reconstituted? Is there too much rot? That I don't know. But yeah.
Eating too much salt causes hypertension, right? Nope. What about too much bacon and red meat? Nope. It's actually calcium buildup that turns arteries to stone. Do this to clear calcium.
President Trump is pissed. He wants Tim Walz in jail. He wants these Somalians booted from the country. They're stealing our money. Now you've got Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder saying, once we get power, it's time to go buck wild. To help me go through all this, I have Grant Stinchfield. Grant, thank you so much for joining me again.
Stephen, it's great to see you. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I'm so happy to be with you today.
Thank you.
Oh, we did. Thank you. So this first story I want to jump in on. President Trump has once again called on Senate Majority Leader John Thune to nuke the filibuster. He posted over on Truth Social, Eric Holder, Barack Obama's former attorney general, saying that if they take back the government in 2028, that they've got to remake the government. We live in a broken system. he talks about how it's necessary to pack the Supreme Court. Let me show this to you in the audience, and then we'll react to it together.
I think the Supreme Court is a broken institution. We cannot leave in place without a discussion, at least, and I think without substantive reforms being put in place, this Supreme Court as it is presently constituted. If there is a Democratic trifecta in 2028, Supreme Court reform is something that has to be considered. Potentially expanding the court is something I think that also should be considered.
Okay, so Trump goes off. This Obama sycophant is letting us know they are going to nuke. Have the spine to do, and we will never win elections again. They want to pack the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts on the former highest attorney general in the land saying the country's broken and we need to pack the Supreme Court?
Look, he is one of the orchestrators of what was an attempted coup of America, and really after call it the second election of President Trump that he won but didn't get into office, Eric Holder was right there. He was right there for all of it after going after conservatives. So this makes total sense. It's not a surprise to me whatsoever. And Stephen, I'll tell you this. I really thought long and hard about this idea of throwing out the filibuster. In fact, when President Trump first floated the idea, I did something that I can't remember the last time I've done as a talk show host. And that was, give me a couple days, I told my viewers. I said, I got to really think about this. I can't just fly off the seat of my pants and come up with a decision on throwing out the filibuster because it has such huge ramifications if we do it. I said, so give me a couple days. And over those couple of days, here's what I came to the conclusion. One, President Trump has always been right. I can't remember a time he's been wrong. And so he's done things, including things I've disagreed with, that he's turned out to be right. Tariffs is a great example of that. So I put great faith in President Trump and his decision-making on this. Two, I looked at the Senate and I said, what is the assessment of the United States Senate now and the makeup? Will Chuck Schumer, who I believe Thune, Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Nancy, but they were all kind of that establishment crowd. Schumer might not throw out the filibuster. But will he be the guy in charge if, God forbid, the Democrats take back the Senate? And my conclusion was no. The Democrats have moved so far to the left. They have radical factions of this party that has totally taken it over. So I don't think Schumer would be in charge, and I think they would throw out the filibuster in a heartbeat. So if you come to the conclusion that, say, you've got a 75% chance, and it's probably greater than that the Democrats, then you say, well, why wouldn't we as Republicans do it? If they are, we might as well get the benefit of it, try to put some firewalls in place, try to get the country back on track as much as possible, and prove to the American people when you're getting it back on track, why not to elect them back into office so they don't throw out the filibuster because they're not in charge and elections have consequences. Then so be it. And lastly, I'll say this, Stephen, I played sports all the way through college. I played a little Division III football, but no big deal. But my mentality is that of winners and losers. Elections have consequences. So you know what? We've got to fight harder to win. And if we lose, then we suffer the consequences of that. So let's not lose. Let's make this to be a great motivator to go out and win. And then if we lose, well, we come back and fight harder. But this is what elections are all about. And so let's go out there and win. Let's never let them have power again. Let's throw out the filibuster and let's get America back on track like President Trump wants us to. And I'll do everything in my power to help him do it.
So I had the same reaction. I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is a really big deal. Like this, we've operated under this tradition of the Senate kind of being the brakes and the House being the gas. But President Trump reminded me and MAGA of a couple of things. He said, number one, they've already announced that this is what they're going to do. And two, we have a track record under Joe Biden. The only reason that they didn't nuke the filibuster was Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who they immediately put out to pasture. And so once he said that, I was like, okay, wait a minute. He's so right. They're absolutely plotting. They're announcing, they're doing interviews on the left media that this is what they're going to do, and they already tried to do it. The second thing that convinced me was I was like, wait a minute. Trump has all these great ideas, right? But he can't get them done, and the Senate is the number one hurdle. So how are we even supposed to show that MAGA and Make America Great is a great way to do things if you can't get anything done? Yeah. And so after I came to those conclusions, it was similar to you. I told my audience, I think it's time to nuke the filibuster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's surprising that we get to a point where we've got to come to that because, in many respects, the filibuster is a good idea. It keeps everybody in check. But the problem is everybody's not going to be kept in check. And so why would we put ourselves at a disadvantage? And boy, Stephen, what a great point you raise about Sinema and Joe Manchin. When I say that the party has moved so far radical left, those were the first two they got rid of. And believe me, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema are no moderates. Really? Okay, they really aren't. I mean, they come off because they're being held up against these radical Democrats, but they're not really moderates. They're still leftist liberals. They were thrown out. And so any last bastion of holding the line in the Democrat Party for that is gone. And I think you will see some radical, God forbid AOC wins her Senate race in New York against Chuck Schumer. And Senate, you don't think they'll throw out the filibuster as quick as you can count to three? Absolutely, they will.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Over in Oregon, the eastern part of the state is breaking away. Specifically, 14 counties in eastern Oregon have voted to...
Absolutely, they will.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. President Trump held a cabinet meeting. In that meeting, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem urged President Trump to stop allowing the United States to be the dumping grounds for unvetted armies of foreign nationals who drain public resources. Literally, they come here, they live off of the taxpayer. The taxpayer doesn't even get the benefit. Well, now you've got liberals on the left crying tears because Kristi Noem said that the people flooding our country are killers and leeches. I mean, what else would you call them? You've got people with a criminal past for violating women, trafficking children, pushing drugs that kill people, and then they're literally leeching off of the hardworking back of the American taxpayer, and now they're out there because she was name-calling immigrants. Yeah. Your thoughts on these pathetic people?
They're so concerned about the feelings of illegal aliens, many of them who are causing great damage to America and taking American lives. Stop being so concerned with the feelings of illegal aliens and start being concerned with the lives and safety and security of Americans. That's my story to them. You have senators like Tim Kaine and Mark Kelly, one of the seditious six. All of these people want to come to the rescue of not just illegal aliens that want to come here, and there are some that just want to make a better life for them because their home country is a hellhole. Okay, I understand that. But many of them are causing damage. They want to defend narco traffickers. They want to defend child rapists, drug traffickers, murderers. And I can't, by the help of me, to think why. We've got 2 dead National Guards people now, or 1 dead, 1 hopefully recovers, but 2 shot, 1 dead. We've got this Fort Worth Afghan national threatened to blow up a building in Fort Worth on TikTok. Yeah. I mean, what more do they want from us? They want us all dead, and yet they're still wishing they go back to the day where J6ers were their big threat to America, when all J6ers wanted was a free place to move about the country freely and live their lives without government intrusion. And yet you have these illegal aliens that are literally wreaking havoc on us. And they're being used as pawns, by the way, by China, pushing fentanyl into this country that's also killing American citizens. Thank God for President Trump. Kristi Noem says we've got to stop the but he's already doing it. I think it's number 1 priority right now.
Yeah, I think it's probably the greatest thing he's done. Moving these people out. But I'm with you. Like, I just don't understand how you defend criminals more than your constituents. The only thing I can think of is they just need a new voter base. So, like, you give the big middle finger, whoever wants to stay around while we abuse them, we'll take your vote, but we need a whole new group of people to keep us in power down the road.
I think they've walled themselves off in Washington for so long that they have not seen the shift in their own party base. And when I say the shift in party base, I say go into every inner city hood in America. Take Chicago as an example. At Real America's Voice, where I have a show at 7 o'clock every night, we've got guys like Ben Berkwam who go into these neighborhoods and they talk to people of all races, colors, ethnic backgrounds. And they all are so grateful that President Trump is cleaning up the criminals that roam the streets on a daily basis, from gangbangers who were born in America to the gangbangers that weren't. They just want safe streets. You got grandmothers everywhere. And Tim Kaine and the other senators and all of these leftists that just toast their scotches in Washington, they don't realize that people are grateful for the help that President Trump is sending them.
Yeah. Let me switch gears with you. President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent have launched a criminal investigation into the Minnesota Somalian fraud, where they are literally stealing taxpayer money with the knowledge of Tim Walz in order to get votes. But now we're finding out nearly $1 billion of stolen money has gone back to terrorists. Let me play this clip from Fox News, and then we'll react to it together.
Elections. Speaking of Treasury, U.S. Treasury, under the leadership of Scott Bessent, they're investigating where the tax dollars in Minnesota are going. Can you imagine living in Minnesota? You work really hard, and you find out a portion of your paycheck is going to pay for terrorism. They're investigating whether or not tax dollars are being funneled into Somalia. They have a big Somalian population in Minnesota. If they're being sent to Somalia for Al-Shabaab, which is an Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group. It all started because these two guys that work for the Manhattan Institute started an investigation. They wanted to find out where the tax dollars from Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services program, called Feeding Our Future, and some other organizations, they uncovered fraud in this bombshell report. And some of the money, they say, is going to this terrorism organization.
So what does Tim Walz do? Goes after the whistleblowers. Unbelievable. So he is acting like a Mr. Tough Guy on Sunday. We'll do an investigation, put it in jail. Nobody's in jail. You haven't done any investigation. And they say, on some level, maybe, well, these minority organizations and these minority groups need money anyway. Well, this is pandemic money, and it's the money you just spoke of. In fact, here's what Secretary of Treasury Bessent actually said. If we can go to what he's saying, I'm going to do an investigation. At my direction, Treasury is investigating allegations that under the feckless mismanagement of Biden and Governor Tim Walz, hardworking Minnesotans' tax dollars may have been diverted to Al-Shabaab. Thanks to the leadership. And he goes on to say the investigation really is just beginning.
All right. I don't live in Minnesota, but you tell me that after working 80 hours a week and paying the government that they're sending my money to terrorists? I'm furious. Your thoughts on this? Are you ready to feel great every day? I love kimchi and I take it daily. Since starting, my energy is up. My gut feels healthier. I feel genuinely happy. It's amazing what a balanced microbiome can do. My gut got wrecked after COVID and my brain was foggy. I can tell such a difference after improving my gut health. Kimchi One is packed with 900 strains of beneficial bacteria, more than most probiotics, proven in scientific studies to support overall gut health. According to PubMed, a healthy gut is crucial for your immune system, digestion, mood, and even energy levels. Let me share some of the top reasons I trust Kimchi One. Enhanced digestion, increased energy, immune system support, better nutrient absorption, happier mood, and healthy weight management. Want to experience the same? Follow the link below for 25% off Kimchi One, or snap the QR code. Or call my friends at Brightport right now to get up to 50% off with free shipping. That's right. Call 888. 50% off plus free shipping. Your gut and body will thank you.
You got to hear about this thing. There's this new air purifier and makes your entire home safe to breathe in again. I mean, this thing is
Let me give you an example of what I believe went down in Minnesota. And this is why the saying, when you go woke, you go broke, is a prime example of what's happening in Minnesota. I am convinced that there were state auditors that saw this going on, going back to 2021 and probably before. And because they didn't want to come off as looking like they were racist, going after the Somali community, they let this stuff fester right underneath their noses. And they were too afraid to call it out because it was Somalis and they need the votes. And Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota who leads this whole crew there of 80,000 Somalis, it was wokeness that let it fester. And then sending this money to terror groups, there's a network of nonprofits that are now connected to money going overseas to Somalia. She mentioned that housing authority, the Stabilization Housing Authority. Stephen, let me give you an example. In 2021, the budget was $2.1 million, but that year they spent $21 million. 10 times more than what they were supposed to be spending. The next year in 2022, it doubles to 42 million. The next year it goes to 76 million. The next year, 106 million. And in 2025, in the first 6 months, contract to spend $120 million through that agency, which had a budget just 4 or 5 years ago of 2.1. And the money being funneled from the taxpayers to these networks to be sent back to Somalia, and the unfettered immigration in Minnesota saying, come on in, we'll pay for it. So the taxpayers fund more money to house all of these illegal aliens. No matter how you slice it, it's absolutely bad news. And Walz doesn't seem to think he's at fault when he's the commander-in-chief of Minnesota, and he's the one that should have been putting a stop to it, and he knew it was going on, and he did nothing.
Yeah, just disgusting behavior. I asked over on my YouTube if Tim Walz belongs in jail. Look at this. 316,000 people voted and said Trump is right. This guy deserves to be in jail. So like this isn't an 80-20 issue. This is a 96-4 issue that this guy who was nearly vice president of the United States was knowingly allowing a group of foreigners to steal money for terror. It's so despicable. It's so anti-American to me.
Can I just say something for your audience, Stephen? I want your audience to understand the 316,000 votes. That is craziness. The power of this platform of yours is so impressive. Your loyal audience that's watching, you get 316,000 people voting on YouTube, which is not a safe haven for. I just want to applaud you, your audience, for being involved, and that kind of community is what saves America. I know that's totally off topic, but really, I think people at home need to know. You probably read those numbers off all the time. I don't know if they realize just how big those numbers are.
So I want to say this humbly. I don't want this to come across as bragging, but I'm in the top 1% of all of YouTube when it comes to community interaction. I'll show you another one, and then this will be my final question to you. But I asked, Trump says no more illegals from third world countries living off U.S. tax dollars. 96% of 570,000, over 500,000 people decided it was worth their time to support President Trump and say, I don't want to be the dumping ground anymore. I don't want my money going to anyone other than Americans. I'll pay taxes for Americans, but foreigners, foreign wars, these illegals, these criminals, these crooks, these murderers, not another dime. I completely agree with President Trump on that one.
All right. So I'm not surprised by your numbers based off of your audience and who gravitates to you, right? The numbers are huge, and I think you being in the top 1% really is a tribute to the audience and how engaged they are and you being able to engage them. But here's a really important number. 4% said no. So who are those 4%? They're not conservatives. So what does that amount to? 570. It's over 20,000 people. Is that right? 10% is 57. just over 20,000 people said no. But who are those 20,000? Stephen, you've got liberals watching. Okay? That small amount, a percentage, is a huge amount of numbers. You've got 20,000 liberals watching your program. What if a small percentage of them learn something? What if a small percentage of those liberals say, you know what? Stephen's got a point here. Maybe Stinchfield's got a point here. Maybe another one of your guests has a point. And you start changing hearts and minds. I almost think that number of the 4% is the most important number in that poll because they're watching and engaging with you because they either ultra hate you or they're curious. And if they're curious, you can really do big things and change this country in such a great way, help make America great again, which is exactly what you're doing, buddy. I'm just honored to be here with you.
Yeah. No, I'm honored that you would come on. During the Biden administration, I would have people all the time like, I used to watch your channel because you were fair, right? Oh, I hate your new reporting. But president, I couldn't stand by and let him, vote trillions of dollars out of the coffers. And over time, I saw people come. Stories you're reporting, the fact that I reported that Joe Biden signed off on leaving American astronauts to die in space because he didn't want Trump and Elon Musk to get credit. Stories like that, or the fact that Doug Emhoff slapped his ex-girlfriend so hard, witnesses say she spun around. No one wanted to cover the story. So, yeah, I love bringing the truth to people, and I do believe that it's changed a lot. But you're right. Like, if we can make a little bit of inroads on these people, I mean, this gets amplified over and over again, just putting out videos 7 days a week. So it's just amazing. Like, I feel so honored to be able to cover the Trump administration and bring the truth to my audience. I know you do as well.
Yeah, I sure do. Let me just bring a little good news to you before you let me go here. So I was blessed to spend the last week at Mar-a-Lago, and I got to spend a lot of time with President Trump, including some alone time with President Trump. You are going to see this Trump is not with it, the mental capacity story come out more and more by the mainstream media, that he has medical issues. I'm going to tell you something. Stephen, again, I was blessed, and I'm not trying to drop names or where I was, but I got to witness this guy firsthand for 5 days straight, from Tuesday to Sunday. There is nothing wrong with this man. He is with it 100%. His mental acuity is strong as ever. He stays up late playing music loud for all the people there that are celebrating with him. This guy has everything going for him and is strong as an ox. So do not believe it. And that being witnessed firsthand by me, take it to the bank.
I love that. I do think he's trolling people right now because it leaked that there was an MRI.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying, I don't know what they did. I don't know what they did. They're all thinking it's an MRI of his brain, right?
Yeah.
It's probably going to come out being like his ankle or something.
I think it was. I think it was of his stomach or something like that. Like it came out and he didn't really know why they took it or something. But anyway, you're right. He's trolling, and he's the master troller. And you can't be a master troller unless your mental acuity is as sharp as a knife.
Yep, absolutely. Grant, thank you so much for giving me your valuable time. If people want to follow you or catch your show, where can I point them towards?
Well, for your YouTube audience, I would love a subscribe. Stinchfield Speaks. You could just type in Grant Stinchfield. It should come up. I've got real problems making any inroads on YouTube. But Rumble, Grant Stinchfield there, and then GrantStinchfield.com is the website where you can find me everywhere. And, of course, the Real America's Voice Show every night at 7 p.m. on RAV, Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms, and I hope to see you there. Stephen.
Okay, I'm going to put... And we'll have you on again in the future. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
I know my subscribers are struggling with credit card debt. When I was relying heavily on credit to dig myself out of a financial hole.
I'm going to use the bathroom, buddy. Watch this here.
20 million. 20 million. Thank you. $21 million from the debt.
22 million, that's my last offer.
22 million going once.
What's up, guys? Spenny. The Trump curse is 100% verifiably real. We have cataloged this and classified this across thousands of different incidences. One of my favorites is the Red Hen. Remember that restaurant that kicked out Sarah Sanders just because they hated her? Like, you can't eat here. You have the wrong skin color. It's like reverse Jim Crow laws. Anyway, that restaurant shut down forever after. And what is this civil rights violation? We don't like your politics, so you can't eat here. Okay. The Trump curse obviously applies to dozens of media companies, corporate media companies that have had to pay President Trump hundreds of millions of dollars for writing lies about him. It applies to former porn stars who, this is Stormy Daniels. Ugly on the inside, ugly on the outside, no matter what, over a long enough time period, it's going to happen. Matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, same thing with Kathy Griffin, right? Held up President Trump's severed head, and now she looks like a, well, certainly like a Halloween prop, that's for sure. She's the one who looks like a prop. What the hell is going on with Kathy Griffin? Photos of her. Yeah. Woof. Again, she looks like a prop from a horror movie. She looks like a movie of the undead, right? That is, I mean, it looks, this is just video of her jogging, her like briskly walking around LA, but she does straight up look like she's on the set of a horror film. Anyway, same thing with Rosie, who admits with the herpes all over her face. What a terrible angle. Dude, are you even trying? She's not even trying. You can see you can see the open wounds on her face. Rosie O'Donnell says that Trump's first term made her overeat, overdrink, be very depressed. These are miserable people. And they all, well, are destroyed by the Trump curse. Really, it's just by living your life based on hatred of love of my country, my children, my family, actually in that reverse order, frankly. Go home to my wife, my kids, love my community, love my church, my nation as well. A lot. These people live a life of hatred, and you can just see it warp who they are. They just become grotesque, goblin-esque figures of themselves. Oh, jeez. I mean, oh my gosh. Come on. Even Bruce Springsteen, who had a movie made about him. He has a movie. It's the worst, one of the worst performing biopics in the history of Hollywood. Is that Kathy Griffin? No, I guess it's just Bruce Springsteen's life. Springsteen looking weird. When they're cracking down on the child smuggling, you know what I mean? That's right, adrenochrome. Not as easy to get as it used to be. Anyway, it was a complete flop. The Bruce Springsteen movie was a joke. Didn't even make its money back. Speaking of people who are jokes, or who thought they were telling really funny jokes, speaking of child trafficking, remember when Ellen DeGeneres posted that P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, or as I like to call him, Cuddle McSnuggle stuff? Don't need to know why. Remember? Strange thing to say. She posted this, of course, on this would be Election Day 2016, right before Trump won. That almost like it's almost like they never thought anyone was going to catch him. He's, of course, now in prison for a couple years, and Ellen has fled the country. Reminder what a fraud Ellen is. She fled the country to go to England. But back when she was stateside, back before Donald Trump ran for office, she was trying to traffic her own mother to Trump in an unbelievable clip here.
Beautiful woman up there. That's your mother, isn't it, huh?
Yeah. Look at her.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
Guys, if you're feeling the effects of a swollen prostate, don't wait for it to get worse. You don't need meds, surgery, or stuff like saw palmetto to get relief. There's a much better way. It takes just 7 seconds, and you can do this from home. Let me explain. Half of all men are developing swollen prostates younger than ever, and billions of dollars are spent each year on solutions to help them. So why aren't these prostate problems going away? Simple. None of those so-called solutions actually address the real cause of prostate growth. Because if they were, we'd have nothing to talk about right now. But hopefully, this may be the last time we ever have to talk about prostate-related issues. Hi, Dr. Kyle Stevenson here. I'm a board-certified surgeon, and in my Boston Celtics and Harvard University athletics, to aging veterans and hardworking retirees, I've had countless patients asking me how they can get natural relief for their prostate symptoms. So let me tell you, getting a swollen prostate to shrink is actually not complicated or hard if you're doing it the right way. It is possible and relatively restore a stronger stream and sleep through the night without any urinary urges interrupting his sleep. But it's not going to happen with the things like saw palmetto, testosterone replacement therapy, or invasive surgery. None of those things do anything to stop the real root cause of a swollen prostate. So even if they provide some relief, it'll always be temporary because the prostate will just continue to grow. Instead, we need to stop what's causing prostate swelling to begin with. You see, prostate swelling is just the symptom. It's the effect caused by a growth in something else. Growth of fungal infections. The same nasty yeast that causes an itchy, foul-smelling yeast infection in women? Yes. Fungal invaders, like Candida, are attacking and colonizing the inside of your prostate. It's now taken hold deep in your prostate, spreading and inflaming everything. Candida makes your prostate swell uncontrollably, squeezing tightly around your urethra, the narrow tube carrying urine out of your body. And it gets worse. Candida produces waste byproducts that mimic estrogen, causing man boobs, stubborn belly fat, and mood swings, memory loss, and low libido. So what can so-called solutions like saw palmetto, testosterone replacement therapy, and surgery do to fix the cause of prostate swelling? Nothing. It's a losing battle. This is why so many men are left with swollen prostate. Lighter wallets to show for their efforts. Instead, we need to bind and get rid of the fungi that are attacking and colonizing the prostate. The good news? Once you understand what's causing prostate swelling, solving it is actually straightforward. There's a simple method. I call it a prostate shrinking loophole. It gives prostate relief completely naturally, fast, practically overnight. It has nothing to do with meds or surgery. Actually, you don't even need a doctor's appointment to do this. Any man can do it from the privacy of his own home. And it works whether you've had prostate issues for 2 months, 2 years, or even 2 decades. Listen, like I said, getting a swollen prostate to shrink is not hard or complicated if you're doing it the right way. Thousands of men have already tried this simple prostate shrinking method, and the results speak for themselves. Many report almost instant relief. It's the same thing I show my own patients. But since what I'm about to show you is considered inappropriate for most social media because I illustrate the problem and the prostate shrinking method so clearly, I have to share it with you in a separate video instead. I've put together a video presentation. It's free and no need to enter your email or anything like that. Just click the button below to watch the presentation where I'll show you exactly how to do this simple prostate shrinking loophole step by step. So you can reclaim your health and life. Go back to doing what you actually want to do, whenever you want to do it, and not just if or when your prostate allows you to. Click the button below, watch my presentation, and I bet you'll find relief faster than you thought possible.
Dallas Cowboys have won 3 straight games, including against the Chiefs. Trista Crick, are they for real?
It depends on what real means. When this team beat the Raiders, that's not real. But then you end up beating the Eagles, you end up beating the Chiefs, you're pressuring Mahomes like crazy. To me, that feels real. Now, I, as a Cowboy fan, I'm not saying that this is a Super Bowl contending team, but this is a team that was dead in the water 11 days ago, and now they have the chance to win the division. So in that way, Nick, they are real.
Yeah, I guess you're a jaded Cowboys fan, because as a Giants fan, someone who grew up hating the Cowboys, I look at the rest of the teams in the NFC, and I think at this moment in time, you can make the case Dallas is playing well as any team in the NFC. We just saw the Rams lose to the Panthers. The Eagles get humbled by the Bears on Black Friday. Dallas's defense, Trista, is not great. And this idea that everyone's crediting Jerry Jones, look at what he did to fix the defense. He broke it in the first place. Like, you don't credit someone for building a house after they burn it down. But the defense is about average right now, maybe very slightly above average. And you couple that with a badass offense and Dak's playing unbelievable. Trista, I actually do think the Cowboys are for real right now. I guess really the question is it too late?
Nick, but I actually want to just challenge you here, because I actually think the defense could be better right now after the Quinton Williams trade than they were with Micah Parsons. This Dallas team was allowing running backs to gash them down the middle with Micah Parsons there. He can't do everything.
You don't get rid of Micah Parsons and the defense becomes better. The defense is not better without Micah Parsons. Now, it's better than it was about 3 weeks ago, and they get players back from injury, which helps obviously, and the offense is great, but I mean, come on. You should never have come to that. Never should have traded Micah Parsons. I think the recovery's been okay, but he put them behind the 8 ball to begin with.
Yeah, I guess, but $40-something million for Micah Parsons and a below-average defense with Micah Parsons.
He's the best rusher in the league. That's how much that's the cost of doing business.
I don't get it. I think it's fine. I think it's fine without Micah Parsons. As a Dallas Cowboys fan, I would rather this setup with an awesome offense than what we got before. This team still has to pay George Pickens, by the way. I think at this point, you kind of need to cobble things together than have a couple of huge stars weighing things down in the salary cap era.
Before we move on this, just on George Pickens, what's your best guess as a Cowboys fan? And I want the person watching this right now to answer this question as well. How do you think this is going to go with George Pickens this offseason? Because I'm going to tell you how it's going to go.
I think it's going to go badly.
Because it always goes badly with Jerry Jones. So this idea that we're just going to sign George Pickens and sing Kumbaya and it's going to be great. They're going to franchise him probably. He's going to get pissed. That's how this is going to go with the Dallas Cowboys.
And we know how an upset George Pickens looks. We've seen him in Pittsburgh for many years. And I don't think an unhappy George Pickens is a Pickens really that you want, which is why he got traded in the first place. But right now, things are going good, Nick. Let's focus on that, okay? We're going to win out.
I like the usage of we there. I actually do think we need to focus on the good, because whether I'm right or whether you're right about the Micah Parsons situation, the fact is they've won 3 straight. They just beat both Super Bowl participants from last year in a 4-day span.
I had to use the bathroom, guys. I'm sorry.
And she's available if you're interested. I'd like to offer her.
She's very pretty, actually.
So,
I would like to offer her, says Ellen. Ugh. All right. Anyway, Ellen DeGeneres moved to England, and almost immediately, tragedy struck. Here's Ellen trying to do manual labor, mow a lawn, and she needed a man to help her get out of the rut ditch that she got the mower stuck in. Feminism for you. There's also a whole video of them being incapable, her and her wife, Portia de Rossi, to a boathouse. Have no way to, they can't get there because they can't muster the strength to row a boat. Lack the coordination and the strength to do it. It's really like a practice in humiliation here. To watch.
Yeah.
This is because, well, their little Cotswold mansion immediately flooded just weeks after she fled the United States last year. This time last year, November 30th. Ellen DeGeneres' UK mansion floods
Yep, that one.
right as she moves in. Well, you know, everyone likes a sequel. So we're proud to report that Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi's $22 million Cotswolds mansion has flooded again. The Trump curse is alive and well. It's been for sale for 5 months after they put it on the market as the couple plots a return to the U.S. Oh, isn't that rich? Turning to America. So soon, Ellen DeGeneres' farmhouse, the Cotswold, has been surrounded by floods again 5 months after the American former talk show host put it for sale for £22 million. Oh, we should all feel so sorry for Ellen. Ellen and her actress wife, Portia de Rossi, bought the 7-bedroom farm estate for $22 million. No. Your life as a refugee is quite profitable for you, Ellen. You should move to the Somalia. But just weeks after the property was surrounded by floodwater, they began to look for a place on higher ground. The couple quickly put the 43-acre estate on the market for 50% more. It remains unsold. New photos show flooding impacting the estate again after the tributary, the River Thames, burst its banks. There it is.
It didn't last long before she decided she wanted to come back.
They did a one-woman show in July, which she told the audience that the farmhouse was now up for sale. 1 day later, it was revealed that she put the property in rolling countryside on the market.
Won't even fit in the wedding photos at that size. That's what my ex-college friend told me the day before my wedding. I cried the entire day. This is
Don't forget, everybody, we got the Christmas thing coming here. Well, today's the 3rd. Yeah, so
oh boy.
I believe it started on tomorrow.
On a long enough time arc, all left-wing women become Eminem. Ellen had interior decorating work and some landscaping done, but the estate agent said at the time of the listing, it was an absolutely crazy price. They bought the home for $2.5 million over asking price. Okay. Less than a year. Morons. So stupid. Feel bad for me. She's trying to sell her flooded townhouse for $10 million just because Trump hurt her feelings. A source said Ellen was adamant that she and Portia were going to stay in the UK while Trump was in the White House, but evidently she's changed her mind. Apparently they miss their friends in sunny California and dread the thought of another British winter. Good. Look at this. Oh, I'm so impressed. Here's my pool and my my farmhouse. Look, here's where I have coffee every day and stare out of the English countryside. What a nightmare. Oh, what a nightmare. Trump curse, man. Decided to move permanently into the Cotswold 1 day after Trump was elected. And now she's vowing to return home. Please, no. Please, no. $30 million. Feel bad for me. Everyone feel bad for me. Remember when she tortured a bunch of children with Diddy? Airdropping Diddy on all of them. All right. Leave it to Ellen. Let the kids go. Let the kids go. This is cruelty. What are you doing? Get him away from the kids. Him in a restraining order? Ellen DeGeneres seen back in Montecito weeks after moving to England for good. Strange, that. I think it's really funny. And I think it's funny that she's like, good for you, Rosie, that she's crashing out with Rosie O'Donnell. That's great. Fantastic. And she's just not taking well to normal life. This is Ellen DeGeneres weed whacking. please, I'm begging you, keep it up. Like, seriously, please, it's too entertaining. Please continue. And don't ever return. Promise. Boy, Betty, make sure to subscribe.
Next one.
Edema fluid isn't harmless fluid pooling in your legs. It can contain deadly pathogens. Like pathologist has discovered that the edema fluid.
Franklin is a good turtle. He looks for bad guys driving boats loaded with bad things. Franklin doesn't ask questions, he answers them.
What's up, guys? Spenny. This might be one of my all-time favorite Trump lines ever. I'm not allowed to tell you that. It's classified, but here, let me tell you the answer. This moment happened just hours ago aboard Air Force One when reporters asked if President Trump has called and spoken with the communist dictator of Venezuela, a guy named Nicolas Maduro. The reason why this is an important question is because we're practically at war with Venezuela right now. We've closed the airspace above the country. Kind of an alpha move. I didn't know we could do that. Can we do that to other countries? Just to F with them? That'd be awesome. We yeet every boat that leaves Venezuela, practically. And allegedly, we already have troops on the ground there. Not sure that anybody has the appetite for another forever foreign war. I think that Trump has his reasons here. Anyway, here's what he was asked.
I want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit?
No, I can't do that.
What did you say? Would you say it went well?
I would say it went well. Badly.
So President Trump obviously not really talk about it. I can't comment on that. The answer is yes. You'll miss him when he's gone. Anyway, the point is that, there are some sensitive topics about what the administration is doing in Venezuela or has done to Venezuela. Listen, Venezuela is a narco state. I'm not here to simp for Venezuela at all. I don't see any problem in yeeting drug dealers and drug smugglers. That's what a lot of strong nations do. That's what some better run nations than ours do. If you are caught dealing drugs or using drugs, you get executed in places like China. It really reduces the amount of drug smuggling. It's great. I don't want more drugs. I don't want more Americans dead by fentanyl and opioids. And it's been a great evil on my country, and thousands die per day based on that evil chemical weapon that is brought into our nation. Fentanyl is like a mix of 23 different chemicals. It has to be done very specifically in laboratory environments. It's a chemical weapon, and that's what Venezuela is smuggling in here. Anyway, the point is that, I have no problem, right, with the killing of drug dealers. I really don't. Do. Lawmakers warned that war crimes have been committed. Venezuela boat strike. Pete Hegseth accused of war crimes. Let's read. Pete Hegseth has responded to the accusations of war crimes by blowing up drug dealers with a rocket launcher. You ever heard of the Franklin books? And a pretty popular children's book. Franklin Turtle Wants a Pet, Franklin's Halloween, Franklin Has a Sleepover, Franklin the Tooth Fairy, Franklin's Bad Day. Franklin does thing, and that's the book. Pete Hegseth shared this for your Christmas wish list. Franklin targets narco-terrorists. And it's Franklin blowing up narco-terrorist boats. Classic Franklin story. Seen by 15 million people. 18,000 reposts, 127,000 likes. This is being beloved. And even an animated series. Get ready. The animated Franklin series. Everyone's animating the book up. The world. So unfathomably based. Need. Everyone loving it. Meme game on point. Best post on X. Total. Shelf. Keck. OL. On a sec, that's the base department calling. Awesome troll. Might also, Franklin explains what Fauci deserves, learns George Floyd's autopsy, audits the 2020 election. Oh, that's cool. You can do the live action remake. And save Hollywood. Teach them young. Secretary Hegseth gets it. Well, anyway, people love this, right? Franklin defends the border with force. Franklin defends the library. And Franklin questions Ketanji Brown Jackson's credentials. That's right. Don't know what a woman is. Maybe she knows what a turtle is. Who knows? Yes. Franklin defends the border. They could really make a lot of money. So everybody out here, Franklin stands with Sydney Sweeney. Problems require modern Franklin books. Franklin explained Joe's auto pen. These are pretty good. I fail to see a single thing wrong with this. There you go. Pete Hegseth dropping a Franklin meme on Libs, screaming. Yeah.
Don't you dare test this bariatric gelatin. My friends were in shock when they saw me 37 pounds lighter in a tight red dress.
Pete Hegseth dropping a Franklin meme on Libs, screaming. Yeah. All right. Well done. Need. Everyone laughing. The best thing about this administration is how they give liberals daily aneurysms, bring back bullying, anti-Mace Democrats, dead drug trafficker. Yes, fire soon. ADL Franklin. Oh, got me. Ship posters are in control. Amazing. Oh my gosh, yes. There's something very wrong with the Secretary of Defense. Libs. Libs don't like it. What are those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness and light for darkness, bitter and the sweet, sweet for the bitter? Okay, dude, you're talking about killing drug dealers. You could use a lot of Bible verses, quite frankly, about the government wielding the sword, like in Romans from the New Testament, something, the New Testament, governing laws of modern day Christianity and Christendom. About how the government needs to wield the sword for the terror of evil men. It's important. Put this effing loser in prison. They're all saying they're going to arrest Pete Hegseth for this, for a meme. They're saying they're going to arrest Pete Hegseth for this meme. Multiple libs are on the record saying as soon as they get back into office, they're going to arrest Pete Hegseth. This creature is psychotic and unfit for office. You're a disgrace. It's all a joke to you, Secretary of War. That's Eugene Bindman. We should deport him to the Ukrainian front lines. You know what I mean? He loves Ukraine. What I'm saying here is he loves Ukraine. They're like dual citizens of Ukraine. It doesn't make no sense to me. They're over here saying that we got to fund it all, but none of them go fight in Ukraine. Leak Trump's phone calls. We live in incredibly stupid times. There's nothing Christian about war crimes. If we can't aim, then can we at least have dignity? I fixed it for you. Franklin is a war criminal. I will live jumping on this. Pete Hegseth's response. We have only just begun to kill narco-terrorists. That's his response to the outrage. Well done. Hegseth dismisses report, demanded no survivors be left in drug boat strike. Biden coddled terrorists. We kill them. I think that's fine. I see absolutely nothing wrong with this. Done, Pete Hegseth. SEAL Team 6 went on a second mission to kill 2 individual survivors of a Venezuelan drug boat strike in September. Missions to strike drug boats come with an additional requirement from Pete Hegseth to kill everybody. Unconfirmed. Democrats seem more angry about Pete Hegseth killing narco-terrorists on foreign shores than they do about Afghan refugees killing the National Guard on our own soil. That is absolutely the correct take and true. Extremely sad. Would I watch this cartoon and let my kids watch it? Yes, sure. What radicalized me to all this? I went to Kensington in Philadelphia, and I saw what fentanyl does. So you see like some of the drug culture and stuff and meth and stuff big in Iowa. But I've never seen it like on more unbridled, raw display than the human destruction of Kensington, Philadelphia. Just the worst open-air drug market in the world, probably. And it was so incredibly sad. Mustn't be allowed. And there's a lot of concurring spiritual problems that align with this, that cross it. But I'm okay just straight up saying, like, let's just be done with all these narco states, including we need to have this posture towards Mexico, frankly, right on our borders, because it's completely run. That's a complete narco state as well. We'll see what happens, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is funny. I think it's funny.
Let's shoot this one.
I'm here at the world's most incredible Salvation Army, and my
all right, so I don't know why that's up now. All right, so let's get this here. All right, everybody, don't forget we got. I'll turn around so y'all can stare at me. We got the Christmas lights that are coming up. Yep. We got the Christmas lights that's coming up, and we have the lime band that's coming too. I believe, if I'm correct, I think it starts tomorrow, and there's 2 days to be lime band. So make sure everybody is subscribed to my channel. Make sure everybody got the notifications. That's why I got to subscribe, to get notifications when I go live. And I like to say thank you to all my viewers that have subscribed and have been here. And thank you to the LIBTARDs and the Karens for making my channel famous. And thank you to all the mods. But yeah, I don't know. We'll just take it a little bit of time there, but you guys, I'm a little tired, but I can't get anybody yet. I still got a long night. I have a long night, so but yeah, thank you for everybody who tuned in today. And every other type too. So you guys all enjoy your night. Remember to pray. And don't forget your president is your daddy. Your president too. Okay? So I am gonna go ahead and end it. And I don't know, go do something. I might seem like I'm not really don't want to talk too much, guys. I do. But I got things to go do. So